All right. Bear has stepped away for a second, so I will skedaddle down to Sean here. Start with you. Now, folks out there already know this, but if you've watched the show before, but I'll say it again for those who may not have. I send the questions to the folks beforehand. And the reason being is because I want some good, reasonable answers here. So there's kind of a caveat, a disclaimer that I hate with this question. It goes like this. So the question is, what are some boundary issues you've seen at the table? Now, right off the bat, I've already seen it in chat. I've already heard it on the stream. People go, well, if somebody's touching a girl or if somebody's punching somebody else, okay, that stuff, that's what kind of games are you guys playing in? But, so it doesn't have to elevate to the physical violence and the sexual assault. So you're welcome to address it. Simple things like don't touch my dice or don't tell me how to play my character are also boundary issues. So I asked them to think of those quirky gamer habits or anything else that they could that they have come across that's similar to that. So, Sean, and I'm only going to say that long version once, but the short version, what are some boundary issues you've seen at the table?
I have seen the don't tell me how to play my character or, the don't touch my dice is that's not really like to me, that's less of an in-game issue. That's more of a personal space overreach kind of thing. Like you're touching the things I own. So I think that goes down with a lot of the other stuff that you mentioned. But assuming we have gentle ladies and gentlemen, a genteel society, and we can all sit around a table peaceably. I do think that there is one of the things that I see quite a bit, and I used to do it when I was younger, is don't tell me how to play my character, or you should do this. This is the move for your character. And I think this one is one of those ones where it really does come down to the game master to say, whoa, this is their turn. This is their turn. This is their action. And you zero in on that other player and what they want to do.
Because, of course, as the GM, you should always fill the option to ask the player, are you sure you want to do this?
But that's not the same as another player telling them how to play.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
I know.
Yeah. I think that's a good point is sometimes if maybe the other player is trying to warn them, right, or they're trying to say, no, don't do that, do this, because maybe as Mark Hoffman said, maybe they're doing something that's going to be very dangerous for their character or could threaten the whole group. And I have heard John Wick. We talked about game mastering and stuff a bit at a few cons. And one of the things that he mentioned is he likes to say, he has a word, he calls it like mortal peril. You're in mortal peril or danger. If you continue down this path or take that action, you're putting yourself in mortal peril. And so it was just kind of a way to flag that, hey, by the way, this is what you're about to do may be a really dangerous decision.
That example I used earlier.
Mark Hockman, hold on to that, write it down or something. We'll get back to it, but this is Sean's time. Let him finish the question.
Irony. I'm playing my character now, Mark Hockman. No. Anyways, that's the whole point. Is I think that sometimes, other players may be worried because they're trying to save that character. They're trying to make sure the whole group doesn't blow up. It's like someone lighting a match when there's a gas leak or something like that. So sometimes you do have to be careful about that. But in general, I think that, hey, that's role playing. You really do have to let people get their chance to take their action and do their thing. And the other players, that's this specific one of don't tell me how to play my character. I really think that's up to the GM to adjudicate and to really enforce the boundaries.
So have you seen any other type of boundary issues in games that you were in that were crossed? And even if they're weird boundaries, like the don't touch my stuff. I mean, we could do 100 of those. Don't touch my books. Don't touch my dice, and so forth. I'm just wondering if you've seen anything else.
I mean, stuff like that that's not about gaming to me. That's about just genteel society being friends. And that, to me, that's not gaming.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's like, you drank out of my cup. Fuck, that having to do with gaming.
But I mean, it is table etiquette, but I get what you're saying. I mean, these are the type of boundary things that I see people cross. But All right. So now, Mar Hockman, the question's for you. The same thing. I won't give you the long version. What are some boundary issues you've seen at the table?
Well, okay. The first thing that I thought of when you asked that was how that nephew that I was talking about earlier liked to stack dice until they would fall over and scatter. And my brother, who was the GM, we're not talking about like 3 or 4 dice. We're talking about this sack that had like 150 dice in it. And he's just like taking handfuls of dice out of that and just like until they eventually fall over. And it's like, stop doing that. It's annoying. I mean, it's one of those things just like distracting everyone at random for no reason other than he didn't feel like paying attention to the game.
Okay.
Oh, but the going back to the thing I was going to mention earlier is that the specific example I gave earlier of my nephew having his character get mauled walking through the forest, we did actually tell him twice that doing that was a bad idea. Walking off into the forest alone at night, don't do that. It's a bad idea. It's like, I want to do it anyways. And yeah, here are your consequences for doing that.
Okay. All right, let's move up to Bear. Bear, what are some boundary issues you're a bouncer, man. You're bouncing everybody for all the weird reasons in the world. Why are you bouncing people out of your game? No, what boundary issues have you seen at the table?
The only thing I've ever seen, like other than like the stuff we talked about earlier, my 2 best friends, okay, Renzo and Mike. Renzo's a toucher. Mike hates to be touched. Renzo has this thing while he's role playing. He goes, huh, and he taps the person next to him.
That would be annoying.
Yeah. And I'm watching Mike just sit there going, just slowly moving his chair over. So I handled that by separating them at the table and putting someone between the two. The person I put between the two didn't like to be touched either. But unlike Mike, was confrontational and just went, would you stop tapping me? To which Renzo went, oh shit, sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. He was very aware that he was, it was a subconscious action for him. But I think boundaries need to be established. Number one. Number 2, players need to talk to each other. Just because you're the referee in the game, or the judge, or the GM, or the DM, doesn't mean you're the fucking shepherd of the herd. You know what I mean? Of the flock. It's sometimes we put a lot on referees, we put a lot on GMs, and sometimes the stuff we put on is extra, and we don't need it, and it just adds to our stress of running campaigns.
Okay.
Or grab him by the scruff of the neck, throw him at the fucking door. Take your pick.
Since you started this, that's actually, I cannot talk. Oh my God. This actually is one of my follow-up questions. How do you handle a player? We're going to switch this a little bit. How do you handle the player who frequently invades others' personal space?
How do I handle them?
Yeah.
I don't. I let the person who's having their personal space handle them, unless they come to me and ask me to handle it.
Okay.
Because it's not my place to worry about your thing. If you ask me to, then okay, you're inviting me in to be a conflict resolution person, or to say, hey man, can you stop invading Tom's personal space, please? It pisses him off and he's too polite to say anything about it. Versus, hey, stop doing what you're doing. Oh, I'm okay, man. Because that's what the non-confrontational person will do when the conflict starts to rise. They'll go, no, I'm okay. And then you're like, now you look like the asshole because you instigated the aggression.
All right, before I open this back up to for everybody, I know Sean's got something he wants to add to this. I'm going to piggyback on that because of my issue, my misophonia issue. It's one of the first things I talk about when I'm invited to a table or whatever. It's like, hey, I just need y'all to know I have this sound issue. If I hear you eating, if I hear you, if you got allergies and you're constantly, it goes from 0 to hero like that. I mean, there is no like, oh, hey, I better say something before I get angry. It's like a Tourette's kind of thing. I used to call it my chewing with mouth open Tourette's, because I just go from off to 100 million miles per hour light speed right off the bat. So I have to talk about that before, because if it happens, I seethe and then I spurg. And and if that's something, no, dude, we got to have chips at our table. I'll be, it's my problem, not yours. So I get it, but I'm out, because I cannot sit at that table. I just won't. And I get it. You're playing this game to have fun. You want to hang out, and that means soda and chips and whatever else. Maybe pizza, buffalo wings. Oh my God, don't get me around those. Stuff like that. Like, no, that's just not going to be something that I can tolerate. But I don't want to take your fun away, so I'll just bow myself out, and that's just not going to be a group I join. But
Session 0, baby.
Sessions, absolutely, yep. Session 0. Now, if I'm running the game, you are adhering to that rule. But Sean, there's something else you wanted to address?
Yeah, there's one more thing that I want to talk about is, and it does kind of come around to what we would call Session 0 these days. But there were times when my friends and I, we'd talk. I'd say, hey, I want to run something. I want to do some horror, or this next adventure or whatever is going to be more horror themed. And maybe they even said they wanted that, right? So we would want to dial up the horror. Well, one of the things is sometimes you need to establish boundaries so that people know, hey, get your table talk done before the session starts. If you want to show up 30 minutes early, cool. But by the time that it's time to start the session, we're going to be jumping into the session. Does that make sense? And I understand maybe you're all good friends and you haven't seen each other in a week or two or whatever, a month or two, a year or two, who knows? But
it's like chop, let's play.
Right. And then the other thing is maybe in some games, I'm totally cool with making jokes about something that's happening in a combat or a scenario or a situation. But if we're trying to play a specifically horror game, and I'm trying to establish that serious tone, then maybe I'm going to say, hey, no joking at the table, no out of character crosstalk, because I think that a lot of times that is what you need to really ramp up horror and survival horror and stuff like that. And I love playing with that kind of stuff. When, playing riffs and games like that. So I think that sometimes that is also a thing that, and then you got to enforce it. Right. And in this case, that's really about the game and the atmosphere that everyone's already bought into. Right. That's why I do think it's only fair if you have that conversation beforehand. And the vice versa can be true too, where other people are taking the game more and more seriously than somebody else. And maybe it's like, well, hey, we all agreed this was going to be a lighthearted adventure campaign, not Call of Cthulhu. So chill. People are going to tell jokes, but I do think as the game master that usually you're there to help organize and mediate all these things. You don't have to do it all yourself, as I think Bear is very good at pointing out and very right when he points that out. But a lot of times you're there to set the tone and maintain the tone, especially once it's agreed on by everybody at the table.
Good, Bear.
I have a simple, if you set it, your character set it rule. That's a rule I put in place a lot of times.
Oh, I've done that before too. No, that's a great one too.
Set at the table, and you don't say, hey, out of character, before you say what you say, your character just fucking said that. And if you keep going out of character to quip all the time, your character's now standing in the room going, out of character, this guy's an asshole, and people think you're crazy and a jerk.
No, I had something like that happen because I remember I implemented a rule like that. It was like, hey, you say this stuff, you're in character. And it was Phase World. They were being boarded and searched by, I forget who. I don't know if it was the Kriegor or the CCW or somebody. And it ended up in this, because one of the guys like, hey, did you conceal that whatever? And someone else was like, what? And he's like, he said it in front of the cops. Like he said bomb in front of the cops at the airport kind of thing. And I forget exactly what the exchange was, but gunfire immediately erupted, right? So as everyone started pulling guns and so yeah, sometimes you got to put that in place and you're like, hey, you did it. We already talked about this. And I'm now enforcing that.
All right. Any other? Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, sorry. That was just question one. thought we were done already. We are going to move on to the next question, unless you guys have any alibis, follow-ups between each other for what was said about that one. We're going to go on to next set of boundaries here. And this is, you guys have already kind of addressed this, but we'll tackle it again, I guess. What conflict resolution techniques work best when dealing with boundary issues? And since Bear was peeing last time, we'll start with him this time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Look, we do not have conflict that needs to be resolved right here, sir. So,
Yes,
so
do.
no, but what when it's dealing with boundary
John,
issues,
would
what
you mind
do you think
moderating?
works best?
What works best, or what?
In your
what's the
experience?
right thing to do?
Yes to both.
Knock that the fuck off right now. Works best. Sad to say. What's the right thing to do? Hey, let's have a sidebar. Take it down, guys. This doesn't help the game at all. You're just getting on each other's asses and you're making everybody else uncomfortable. Please stop doing this. Or I'm going to wrap up the game and go home because I'm not here to police you assholes. I just worked fucking a 10-hour shift at the bar last night. Fucking had washed blood out of my shirt. I'm not here to fucking resolve your conflict horse shit. So knock it off. Take it down. Or if this is how you want to play, here's the Dungeon Master's Guide. See ya. And sometimes that's the only way, for me. Now,
So-
you can go through the whole huggy, touchy, let's all talk it out and express our feelings. But I don't believe role-playing is therapy.
So, how do you mediate conflict between players with different views on boundaries? Especially and this is the one that I'm both a problem in and helpful in, verbal. I actually have a scenario that I think I'm posting in the next, in the next segment. There's a little scenario. Wait, is it the next segment? Nope, I'm going to run it now. I'm going to run this scenario now. This is for everybody. So, even though Bear started this, everybody can jump in on this and talk about. So you're running a one-shot at a convention or a gaming store. You were paid to run this one-shot, so you're kind of obligated. It's for adults, don't worry, no kids. But you're obligated to see this through. Player 1 is on the younger side. He's a bro dude. Bro, I cast Fireball. Bro, I need another D6. Bro, that was half my character's life. Bro! Okay? Player 2 is a 30-something Protestant. He cusses like a sailor with one exception. He never says, God damn it. And when anyone else says that, he makes a point to be like, hey, don't say that around me. All right? Player 3 is a 420 advocate. He constantly uses drug references in character, and now he doesn't derail the game, but it's obvious some of the players find it annoying. By the way, this is an actual scenario of a game I did not sit in. Player 4 is a religious atheist who likes to take subtle jabs at believers in the group in the guise of in-character statements. The comments aren't openly antagonistic, but they certainly get his point across. Player 5 is a Catholic lady who doesn't like any form of cussing or overt promiscuity. She's timid, doesn't speak up much. You can tell she's interested in the game, but most, if not all, of the antics at the table are uncomfortable for her. And finally, player number 6 is an attractive young lady who openly flirts in and out of character with the other male player characters. During break in the game, she complains about the people who ignored her as needing to lighten up, and those who did respond to her as problematic people who make her feel unsafe. Nice little group there, huh? Welcome to Gen Con. Now, going back to a conflict resolution and that.
Did I go first?
Sure. Go for
refund the money. I refund the money and I'm out.
Me too. I fucking closed the book.
Sorry.
I go,
Sorry,
"Here's
you
your
keep
cash.
going, but-
Have a nice day, folks." But y'all
Honest
are fucking
knee-jerk
back-
reaction
that's
is
horrible.
there's no amount of money.
No.
Okay.
Negative. Negatory
Wait.
would never.
This is one of those things where you'd start out in session 0 by explaining to the people.
There's
okay,
no
this is
session 0.
what's-
This is a
Zero.
convention. It's a convention game.
Right,
So-
but when I say session 0, I mean like when you are talking to the players about what is expected to them of the game. It's like you're going to explain to them what the rules are.
So
in
I'm
terms of-
asking this in all seriousness. Have you run a convention game before when you only have 4 hours to run a game?
Yeah, I know that would
You
be
don't
really
you don't have that kind of time. You kind of assume, other than, hey, I hope you guys read the campaign details. So I mean, what I kind
Yeah,
of want.
go ahead. I know there's probably a little more to the scenario. I'm sorry, I just had to.
Sean, you're fine. But what I want to do is I want to kind of take this because I'm with you. At some point here, by the time you get to player 6, like I can't come out. But let's address each one of the players' concerns. First of all, is the bro guy even an issue? To some people he is. To some people he isn't. Okay.
No,
So-
it's just the only thing it might be an issue is he's annoying, but otherwise, who cares? If what he's doing isn't disrupting the game, sounds like the guy's focused in on what's going on.
I can tell you the reaction to
you created. He's the least problematic.
Yes, but believe it or not, to me he was the most vocally annoying. But yes, I agree. I mean, okay. Player again, it's a one shot, so I can get through this 4 hours, right? I hope. Now, the 30-something Protestant. Now, again, I've actually dealt with somebody like this in MMORPGs. Every time we were doing a raid, I have a bad habit of saying "God damn it," and he kept saying, "I told you to say that." So when I saw this guy, I was like, "Oh God, it's Obi John again." But the dude was like, "I can't even cuss as much as he does, and I cuss a lot." But when it came to "God damn it," I told you not to say "God damn it." Yeah.
So
what would you say to him? By the way, this is open. You guys can jump in how you want on this one. But would you say anything to him, or what would you say?
Yes. Okay. I had this happen when I was a teacher.
Okay.
Where the class, they were presenting funny videos to watch on break or when they did well, and someone suggested the Ahmed the dead terrorist puppet thing, and we played that and everybody had a good laugh. And then a couple of days later, someone else presented this video, which was Jesus pantomiming and singing to "I Will Survive," and these two Christians in the group got really offended about it, and they came to me and said, "That's not right that you showed that." I went, "Gee, I saw you laughing your ass off at the dead terrorist thing, didn't I? Maybe
well,
that's
not a deity, though, Bear. I mean,
look, they were laughing at the dead terrorist thing was talking about Islam, and there were
it's not. It's not talking about Islam. It's talking about something very different. It's different than showing a picture of Allah.
We can get into a theological debate later, Sean. The point is
not a theological debate. One is religion. One is a terroristic act.
Muslim people in the class did not get offended, whereas these two born-again Christians decided to get offended over something. And my point to them was, you had no problem laughing at the thing that was about someone else's religion. In this case, you have one of two choices: accept it or leave.
Terrorism's not about religion, Bear.
Oh my God, it's not that. It's that fucking terrorist puppet joke. If you ever watch, he makes lots of Islam jokes. So he's making fun of Islam. That's my point. I didn't feel the need to go into the hyper detail of someone's comedy routine, sir. But the point being is that, and I will say this, and I say this to everyone, having a religion is lovely. It's like having a cock. Just don't take it out in public and don't shove it in other people's throats unwanted, please.
Well, but that's what some other people you could be perceived as doing to someone who has strong religious beliefs.
Good for them.
No, you just said that's an abhorrent thing to do.
No,
and it's the
I'm
same thing.
Don't bring your religion to the table. If you're showing up at a table to have a game, you're showing up at a table to have a game. If you're showing up to expect other people to obey the tenets of your religion, you are the problem.
Well, but that's
you are now expecting other people to do what.
So you're saying you can't. So you're saying that you can't say things offensive to most people, but only if it's their religion.
No, what I'm saying is don't be offensive, but at the same time, if you are taking offense over someone else's word choice, now
what if you're saying something because you know someone's going to take offense at it?
Well, that's different.
Well, that is different, isn't it? That's exactly which is exactly the Max Dial's point, where if there's an atheist player at the table who's intentionally needling.
Yeah, that person we will deal with. We're not at that person yet, Sean. We're at the person who's getting upset about
But my point is who's intentionally antagonizing who?
Oh, no. People who are intentionally antagonizing, we have to deal with in a different way. But people who are... Okay, so look. I had someone quit my channel. We had a nice polite conversation about it because I say Jesus Christ. Because where I grew up, we have a very strong Irish ancestry where we are. And we go, Jesus Christ, all the time. It's what we say. And someone said, hey, man, I'm not comfortable with you saying that. I said, well, I appreciate that you're not comfortable with you saying it, but it is a cultural thing for me. I am going to say it, and I'm not going to police myself because you have an issue with it. If you can handle it, great. If you can't, I completely understand your point, but please understand mine. And he said, you know what? I appreciate you taking the time to explain it to me. I see your point, but for me, it's uncomfortable, so I'm just going to leave. And I said, okay, man, sorry to see you go, but I understand.
So
that's simple.
in that MMO that I was talking about, Obi-John and I had that very similar conversation. I said, look, man, I will do my best not to say it, but I'm not fully going on board to police myself. It's going to come out. Don't yell at me every single time I do. If you want to talk to me after the fact, that's fine. I will try not to, but I make no guarantees because it's just so built into my lexicon that that's what I say. And he was cool with it. Like that was so. And this is honestly, even what you and Sean were kind of debating a moment ago, I think that's important in this discussion because it is kind of funny as somebody who is actually tipping himself back into Christianity after 35 years of everything from a cult and so forth. I'm not finding myself offended by any of it, but I'm re-understanding more and more why some of the things that like I like to say or do, might not be appropriate around some people. I played a game.
That's fine. That's your choice. That's a choice you're making at that point in time. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, man, it bothers me when you do this," and you want to be the peacekeeper, you want to be the middle finder, you want to be the person that says, "You know what? Sorry, I'll make my best effort to try. If I slip up, I'm sorry, but I'll try." That's rational adult conversation. If we go down the line of people and we get to the person that is actually antagonistically doing it to be an asshole, that person's an asshole, and we need to deal with that issue.
Well, but like when you talked about with your channel, you're saying that's, and in a lot of ways, your channel's your space, right? It's not like you're sitting at a game table with 5 people who you can just discuss what their boundaries are. You've got hundreds, thousands, sometimes maybe viewers. I don't know what your view counts are, but you know what I mean? Like whatever, it doesn't really matter. If it's more than 10, you can't really, it's at some point, you just have to default with what you're comfortable with, right? Yeah. So, but it is different when you're at a gaming table and that this is someone's specific picadillo that is bothersome to them. And then I think it does come down to, am I going to, or we need to discuss this. Is this a deal breaker for somebody? And then you got to rationally discuss that. And I think that, again, this is more of like polite company, because it's not really just about a game. It's if you went out to dinner and it would still be a problem, right? It's not really about a game, though.
Yeah. And I think you could easily head off all of this at the start of your one shot by going, okay, hi, no drugs, no violent sex, no religious discussion, no vulgarity. If you can't handle that, here's your money back. See you later. Bye, Tim.
Well, what I was going to say about this is that you need to start by looking at it from the perspective of both parties need to be cognizant of not overdoing it when looking at things from a position of getting offended by something. It's like, okay, this person didn't know that you found something offensive. So you're not going to just like completely flip out on them because they said something you don't like. But at the same time,
that sounds like there's a lot of psychoanalysis going on there for a 4-hour game. Or am I misreading what you're saying?
No, I mean, I agree with what Mar Hockman's saying. The trick is when you get put into this, what you were talking about, this
crazy scenario
with 6 people, and then you're sitting in the middle of it. It's like it's a ticking time bomb.
Yep.
Right?
It's a delicate balance of this person wants this, that person wants that, and neither one of them is going to be happy with the middle ground. But
so Mar Hockman and everybody, we're still on just player 2, and let me tell you how he reacted. He's like, I said don't do that. Okay. Like, I personally didn't have an issue with this. Hey, don't say God damn it around me. I find that offensive after the first time somebody did it. Like I said, I will try to cater to that as long as it doesn't like say, don't say the word the, or you have to say cisgender, not normal people, or something like that. Because I'm going to use the English language. But as a curse word, I absolutely understand, and I will try to avoid it. I'm not going to insult Judaism. I'm not going to insult Buddhism, whatever. But this dude just, blam! He went from 0 to 100 over that, and it's like, whoa, calm down.
Had he previously said, "Please don't do that"?
Well, he didn't say please. He said that I remember. He didn't say please. I heard him say, "Hey, don't do that." I don't know if he said I find that offensive or whatever he said, but basically he made the point, like, "Hey, don't do that around me."
Yeah, see, that's different. That's dictatorial. That's telling someone what they can and cannot do, as opposed to asking them to be sensitive of your concerns or your peccadillos. Different beast, very different beast.
Oh, I get
that kind of fits in with what I was saying earlier about it's like you as the person who is being offended need to understand that other people aren't going to know what all of your personal foibles are. You can't expect everyone to avoid what you dislike just because you dislike it when they don't necessarily even know.
Okay.
Look, one of my best friends used to be very uncomfortable with the fact that I use the term motherfucker a lot. And he asked me, do you mind when we're together not doing that? And I said, you know, man, I'll try. Because he approached it well. I'll make an effort. If I slip up, I slip up, but I'll try. That's different than saying, don't do that. If someone says don't to me, that fucking rebellious nature in me kicks in real fast.
Me too, yep.
Real fast. I'm like, really? It bothers you when I say goddamn? Well, goddamn, that's gotta be a pain in the ass being near me. Goddamn, I would leave if I were you. Goddamn, the door's right over there. Why don't you walk your goddamn ass out it?
Let me throw one thing out there. No, I understand what you're saying there, Baron. I think that that's something for people to keep in mind. Now, in this scenario, if you're running a game at a con and you've been paid to do it or whatever, people are paid to be part of an event, then I think that, well, here's the thing. A lot of times games like that, you've got kids there, 12, 14, right? I don't think it's bad to say no cursing. Right? You know, whether it's someone taking, you know, the Lord's name in vain or anything else, right? Because then you're lowering the bar to the point where all polite society, right, can participate at that table. Just like you would, a lot of us will very naturally, right? I'm sure if Bear is sitting there running at a table and you know, a dad sits down with his 12-year-old daughter, suddenly his brain magically doesn't curse, you know, because that's how we're built. And maybe
grandma. It was grandma for me.
Right. And so that's that. So one of the things I would say is if you have people that have are more sensitive and you're in a public setting, not a private with your friends, that maybe you need to change that and make that clear to everybody that, hey, we're all going to operate on this level of rules. So for instance, that person who was, you know, whatever, the born again type guy that was like cursing like a sailor, but then don't take the Lord's name in vain. It's like, well, okay, but you know, you can't curse either. Right.
Sure.
Right.
And that does, by the way, that does come up later.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but like that was exactly where I was going to go with this, is that if you're going to have a no profanity rule, make it all no profanity. Don't just single out specific things.
Remember,
so are you going to make a list of words? Because
don't
if I say bloody,
there. Shut up there.
No, I'm going to be honest.
No, I'm dealing with the problem player.
If I say bloody, it means nothing to us. But if I'm in the UK and I say bloody, that's a curse word.
Yeah, but if you know, is there someone? Is there?
Do I know?
Someone
Okay. Let me define the scenario just a touch more. Number one, there were no kids here, and I did mention that, but I got your point, and I thought that what your point was actually important. Two, it was, I think I said Gen Con earlier because I still remember my D&D game, but no, it was at a gaming store, and it was just adults, But you're right. There could have been kids there. And I think the idea of having a no cussing rule isn't necessarily a bad one. And I do cuss like a sailor sometimes, although I had nothing on this guy.
Oh, I cuss like
one of the things I love about Marvel, which I kept for Heroic, is the swearing penalty. If you swear in the game, you lose 25 karma. Enjoy that.
Oh, that's right. I remember you doing that too.
This is a heroic game. This is about heroes. You don't sit around going, that motherfucking cunt face, you know, like, whoa. Nerds Nerd, on the other hand, sees that as a challenge to see how many karma she can lose in a session. You know, that's her goal, right? Like, how many penalties can I get in one session?
Okay.
But yeah, no, the politesse is politesse, right? Or sorry, not politesse. Is it politesse the word I'm looking for? Politeness, but like political politeness. The idea that we all know there are basic social fucking boundaries.
Decorum. I mean, that's what I call it.
Decorum, sure.
Sometimes that's the problem when others don't, and you're in this situation where you're all these people you don't even know, right? So sometimes, if you're the person who's been paid to be the adult in the room, then be the adult in the room.
Then in those cases, you educate them.
And you make a decision.
What I love about this conversation is this actually is getting into the conflict resolution, other than just saying no, go away, or as you guys said at the beginning, I just take my stuff and go home. I think this might even be the most important part of all the segments we've had so far.
Oh, I still would take my stuff and go home.
That's fair.
Oh yeah, refund quick.
As I pointed out in chat earlier, depending on the nature of the group that you're playing, kicking people out of the group may not be a valid option.
How's it? Okay.
Well, I remember how I keep talking about how I had home games with nephews. Yeah.
That's still a valid option. If you, it's like, parents spank or ground whatever their kids. They're not allowed to go to the pool and swim with the other kids because they're being disrespectful. I mean, sorry, but you are not for here.
Grandma, pick up your dice, pick up your books, and get the fuck out of my table now, Granny.
Well, and but it's interesting because what Mar Hockman's talking about is what the other players are doing in character, right? They're being unintentionally disruptive or, acting in ways that the game.
Well, also kids are going to be kids anyway, right?
No, absolutely. But I think it is very different than the scenario you're talking about.
Yes.
It's all about clashing personalities. It really doesn't have anything to do with the game at all.
It's all about strangers just being terrible.
Right. It's just random strangers, and now you're the referee.
And one of the things that, and I really do want to move on to number 3 here because we got 6 of them, is that I think that we're lacking because of the Twitter world we live in now is that whole decorum thing. Yeah, sure, I may have offended you. Oh, sorry, man, didn't mean to do that. Instead of blowing up on somebody and instead of just be, I do what I want, you got to have that, hey, we're out in public now. And etiquette is a thing. I actually just wrote a post about that on my Substack where etiquette is a thing. And etiquette is actually important because even if we don't like certain aspects of it, there are certain aspects I don't like. It actually shows that we have a functioning society. But
I really like this new Max Liao. This new Max Liao that's all concerned about social things and being polite. I like
actually, if you, I spurred about
social
social
Shut up, Box RPG was a joke.
All right. So, player 3, the 420 advocate. So, like I said, he constantly uses drug references like, dude, we should just get him wasted. All right, man, if I just had to, I forget the drug terms he was using, 8-ball right now, my character would just be so happy. That was going on. Again, it wasn't derailing the game, but the other people were just like, Would you do anything about that? Any thoughts on
Constitution save? He had a bad 8-ball. Oh, sorry, your character's dead. Bye. It's bad shit, man. You got some bad shit.
I mean, since it's a one shot, would you just let it go? Would you say something to him?
If it was a one shot, I would just get through it. If it's not, especially if it's just out of like table talk.
If it's something like the guy complaining about not having something that he doesn't have, is like, okay, but you don't have that, so why do you keep talking about that?
Do you remember the Half-Baked movie? Did you guys ever see that? And it's like, so one of the memes from that movie was, let's just say you're doing D&D here, and it's like, have you ever fought a goblin on weed? He was doing crap like that.
Oh,
he's a moron.
Yeah, well, right. But it was irking the other. Now they didn't say anything and kept the game going, but it was irking the other players. So okay, so right now we got the bro dude and the 420 guys. Like, whatever, dude, you're obnoxious, but let's move on. You haven't really messed with anybody. All right, player 4, the religious atheist who likes to take subtle jabs at the believers in the group. What he was doing, believe it or not, he was the one that, in my opinion, got the least flack because he'd do stuff like. Again, I don't remember everything that was in this scenario, but find dinosaur. Well, I found some dinosaur bones, but I guess you don't believe in them, do you? Things like that.
A D&D game?
Huh? Yeah. Well, whatever they were playing, I think it was D&D. Yeah.
Wow. That just sounds like really loser kind of.
Yeah.
But he was taking all of these types of jabs at them. Even like, I believe in gods, but they don't exist in reality. But here I have to believe in them. I don't remember his exact words, but this is what I was remembering from. So, and
That's funny if he flew the most under the radar, but it's like at the same time, that's the person that's actually
The biggest
taking the
dick
most
at the
jabs
table.
at other people, being the biggest dick. Yeah.
he's.
That's the guy I'm having the problem with.
I'm saying it out loud here, and being very blatant, but I feel like when I remember, he was more subtle than that. But I can't mimic everything he was
that's
doing.
kind of the gist I was getting from this is that he wasn't someone who was like super in your face about it. He just like poke at people anytime he found a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you've got that guy poking them, right?
Mhm.
And that's just the nerve getting struck. So by the time the other person's dealing with their thing, they're already on edge. So he's
Right.
making it worse by keeping them on edge all the time.
Yep. I mean, that's actually something that I've had issues with. It's like someone knows that they're being annoying and chooses to continue it because of the fact that they find it amusing to annoy other people.
Right.
Uh,
And that's the number one kind of person that they reform, or you get them out of the table, in my opinion.
All right.
Because it's not like a skill issue of I'm learning to role play, or you know what I mean. It's like that's like intentionally destructive to the social cohesion.
yeah.
By the way, I call player 5 a Catholic lady just because I didn't want to use Christian twice, so I used Protestant for the first one. I don't know if he was Protestant. I don't know if this chick was Catholic, but I know she was religious. But who doesn't like any form of cussing? She kept calling him potty mouth.
I love her.
But she was timid and didn't speak up much during the game, and it kind of felt like I think she was just an introvert by nature, maybe. But
Right.
she just the more obnoxious they got, the more she just kind of, did that. She seemed interested in her character or in the game, but the antics at the table just kind of made her just sit back and, this is my 4 hours done yet?
See, I would actually focus the game on her more now. I would be totally catering to her.
Yep.
Just because, you know what? This poor lady is being totally Christian about it. She's being all like, they're idiots. I forgive them, whatever. But she's not having fun. So now we're going to have fun, her and I.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'd be focused on the bro and then the Catholic, woman, right? Because it's like, well, they sound like the people that are actually most engaged in the plot of the game of what's the events that are transpiring. Does that make sense? Whereas everybody else is, gee, I wish my character had a, 8-ball or whatever, or right. Oh, let me poke at this other guy or whatever. So yeah.
Now, player 6, in full honesty, was not part of this table, but is something that I experienced and Von Zarek and I experienced in our gaming time back in the late 80s, early 90s. The attractive young lady who openly flirts in and out of character with the other male players. During a break in the game, she complains about the people who ignored her. Can you get them? They're boring. Get them out of here. They don't do anything. And then the people who did kind of flirt back or at least play along with it, she's like, I just don't feel safe around him. I don't like this. So kind of playing out of both sides of her mouth.
Yeah, she can leave.
Yeah.
This is someone who seems to be here intentionally to cause trouble and isn't actually there to play she's not there to have fun. She's there to play games, but not fun.
not
she's not there to
the
play
right game.
Your game.
Yeah,
she's not
right.
there to play your role-playing game, right?
Yeah.
She's there to play a different game. And it sounds like, and in some ways, this is a lot like the atheists, character that you talked about. Because I mean, to me, they're not real people, right? But so both of them really aren't there for the game, right? Their entire focus is a completely different dynamic than being part of a cooperative storytelling event, right? So in that case, those are the people that it's like, yeah, you have a, if this was something where maybe it was going to turn into a weekly thing, you get through the session, you pull them aside afterwards, you have a discussion, and you decide whether or not you're going to eject them from whatever gaming group. If it's a one-off, yeah, I mean, you're getting paid money. How much money, right? I said I refund the money. If you're giving me $100,000, I'm not refunding the money. I'm getting through those 4 hours. You know
I'll
what I
suffer
mean?
for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, easiest 100K I ever made, right? So it's like everyone has a price, I guess. That at least what I run a 4-hour tabletop gaming session, right? So it's that, but I think that's we're talking about boundaries and issues, and maybe that's one thing as a this whole discussion, like you said. I mean, sometimes it really comes down to pegging whether something is is this a character defect of this other person that's potentially gaming with me? Maybe this is a cool guy for me to play pool with or go out to dinner with, or a cool coworker, but they're not part of my gaming group because they can't socialize well with my gaming group or something like that. And sometimes, and then other times you need to figure out, what level is this problem at and can it be resolved? And then take appropriate action. That's not really anything about gaming, but it is something that I think people run into at their table. So I think it's worthy of discussion.
I agree. I think look, all of this can be circumvented or at least mitigated by saying, hey, here's some rules. We're going to establish this as the contract for the table for the next 4 hours. If you are incapable of following these simple rules, here's your money. Have a nice night. And by the way, Malachi, I let you off the hook on that last comment you made, just so you know. That was your Christmas gift.
Well, I can tell you the end result of number 6 was at one point or another we all fucked her. So anyway, moving on.
Was it a LARP?
Huh? No, not at the same time. She dated one, then another, then another, and then another. So, but nobody'd kick her out of the game. Although we did have games that we intentionally didn't invite her, but nobody would kick her out because they didn't want to deal with her poutiness.
This is one of those Air Force barracks things, isn't it? No?
High school.
Oh, even worse.
Well, true. I mean, I could go into the other 2 women that were there. They all had their own faults, but we don't have time for that. But half my group, God dang, my eyes are burning. Half the group that I had when I was in high school were women. So, when people say girls don't play, half my group, and that was in 1988 through when I graduated, 91.
My experience with Air Force barracks groups was that they're people who are just barely out of high school, so they still act like it.
Okay.
I'm trying to turn this into a slam the Air Force conversation all of a sudden, because that's not right.
So, what we are going to do, though, is we're going to finish up. The reason why I went to that scenario, because you guys, once again, answered most of my follow-up questions, and we're ready to go into the final topic here. But I want you guys to finish up any alibis or whatever about the whole boundaries thing. If there's anything about boundaries we didn't talk about, or if there's anything that you want to get off your chest that somebody else said, whatever, please do that. And then we'll read some chat. We'll move on to the last topic.
Yes, Sean used a word I didn't like, pegging. Don't do that.
That was way earlier in the stream.
No. He said, when you got to peg these things. He said peg twice now today, earlier and now. It's like, dude, crazy.
Your sexual proclivities have nothing to do with me.
Because my sexual proclivities are fucking awesome.
Because somebody made the comment way earlier in the stream. You just have to peg them. I walked in at the wrong time. So,
well, I guess it's all degenerates here tonight.
It's Friday night, man. What do you want? By the way, before we finish the segment up and we go into segment 4, my eyes don't stop burning because I'm not drinking enough water. I do want to thank Mar Hockman, Sean, and Bear for being here. The conversation. I mean, Mar Hockman's filling in for somebody else who couldn't appear tonight due to medical issues, and Sean's busy as hell, and Bear's got all the nonsense he's working on right now. So I appreciate those guys being here right now. So let's go with our comments. Start with this one. My humble opinion, psychology of a fantasy RPG participants seems to have a certain amount of feeling entitled to fantasy becoming reality. Do you agree? And how do you mitigate that penchant? I'll let you guys each answer that. Basically, is what happens in the game. The way I took it is what happens in the game happens to me.
Yeah, that's.
You want to start with that one, Bear?
Yeah, that's one of those, like, okay, buddy, look, let's you and I have a quick conversation. Make believe, reality.
Yep.
If you cannot separate the two, you cannot play in the game. Listen, here's this movie called Mazes and Monsters. I want you to watch it, and if you identify with Tom Hanks over everybody else in the film, maybe my game's not for you. Like, I don't know. That's such a fucking weird. I've never had to deal with that situation.
Look.
I was affected by that situation. If you'd like me to tell a really disturbing story on why I don't allow cross-gender role-playing in my games.
That's funny because neither do I. Weird. Please
I got
do tell.
invited in college to a D&D game one night. We all went. We played D&D. Some other people, friends of friends, and there's this one guy who was playing a female wizard, and he kept his character kept hitting on me all night long. Wouldn't stop.
I would feel weird.
Would not stop to the point where I was getting like just, like it was really uncomfortable. And then a week later, I found out he was asking if I was ever coming back to the game because he really enjoyed role playing with me, and I'm just like, no, right? Just no. And that left me at a point where I started analyzing in my head, and I realized men, when they play women, tend to play them like whores, and women when they play men tend to play them like jocks. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of not all. There's obviously exceptions to the rule, but people tend to play the worst stereotypes of the other gender when they play them. Therefore, you're not doing it at my fucking table. But I don't give a fuck what you want. At my table, it's a no.
My reason's a little different, but I have the same rule. My reason is because I have to have a little bit of suspension of disbelief here. And yes, I can picture you as, maybe a short dude, 4 foot tall with a battle axe or pointed ears. But when you're talking to me, hey, Max, what's going on? I can't picture you as a chick. Sorry. And vice versa. And I do want a little bit of that verisimilitude in my game. So I don't let people play cross-gender either.
By the way, disclaimer, no, I don't think you're necessarily a white knight tool, Mr. Bear, but that's an incendiary way to dramatize issues.
I don't know what that means, but
I don't know what that means either. So thanks.
All right.
This is why I don't read the chat.
I saw my name. I was like, well.
So unless it's a PvP game like Paranoia, no intra-party backstabbing.
Oh, you can't control that. Players are going to play their character.
I obviously patently don't agree with that.
Strangely enough, I disagree, but only because of experience. It is one of the rules I put in my game is if you're here to PvP each other, then this isn't the game for you. Find a way to get along and not stab each other in the back. Now, you can have secret agendas as long as it's like a final secret agenda, not like, I'm going to take everything he owns and I'm going to kill him at some,
No. Yeah. I'm with you there, though. I think I'm with you there.
I had a referee who, when we were playing Ninjas and Super Spies, oh my god,
Ryan, were you running it?
And it was the 12 commandments of. Literally, he wrote it as a piece of paper that he gave us all, the 12 commandments of the game, and number 12 was, it's okay if your character's a dick, but they have to be a dick with a heart of gold. And I was just like, that's an interesting way of putting that. I kind of like that. It's okay to be the jerk, but it's the jerk that actually cares. It's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, because that means that your character is still they're still a heroic character, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of like an anti-hero, I guess. Like the more likable anti-hero there.
All right, Law Dog for $4.99 says that used to be called manners. Thank you for the $4.99, Law Dog. Appreciate that. But yeah, a lot of what we're talking about, decorum, manners, etiquette, absolutely. We act fools sometimes on the streams because this is public persona. It's entertainment. It's a lot of different reasons why it may happen. But if I were to sit down next to each one of these individuals, I would act like you are supposed to act in polite society. Might surprise you.
Well, that's really the problem, right? With the scenarios, most of the people weren't being polite. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yep.
No.
Bob Vecna says, it's amazing how many problems in a childish game can just be fixed by talking like adults.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, one of the things that I really feel, and I've said this a lot when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, is modern is a little different, but a lot of us, I would say the vast majority of us, not everyone, we were the misfits. That's kind of why we took to the games at first, especially in, I don't know about the 70s, but in the 80s and the 90s, we were kind of the misfits. This was our island of misfit toys where we could be. Now it's more mainstream now. I get that, but a lot of people did have social interaction problems. And to be fair, I've heard parents say that they've taught their kids who had Asperger's how to socialize through role playing, and I've seen players at a table. I've talked about my tables a lot. We would encourage other players to be better people, follow our table decorum, so to speak, through positive reinforcement.
Right.
Yes, you are, Brian. Yes, you are. All right, where are we here? Max has an insanity. Yes, Kokushuko is one of our Palladium watchers. So yes, I rolled an insanity on the table. I'm a crazy. Here we go.
Crazy man option.
Beatman, it says, I had 2 ladies aggressively hit on me during a game back in the 90s. Pretty sure they only did it because I was recently engaged. Very weird and very uncomfortable. If you were there at the table, okay, no, specifically, you're the game master at the table. Any quick ways that you'd handle that? Or would you just ignore it and hope it goes away?
I mean, other than just like,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah, like, I mean, oh, ladies are hitting on you. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
But he was just engaged.
And
Tell them you're engaged.
Yeah.
dudes
I'm
do this
engaged,
shit.
you're taken.
Tell them you're engaged, number one. Or number two, was your fiance at the table? Number three, dudes do this shit to each other all the time. We rag on each other. We piss on each other. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like, we fucking go. We find the weak point, or we find the social thing, and we just go between guys. So if you're at a table with a bunch of girls and they know you're engaged and they're like now hitting on you, fuck it. They're just being of the boys. You need to fuck off. So
Okay.
I don't see a problem with it, but you can, if it makes you uncomfortable, say something. If they continue after you've said something, now it's a problem.
You have to say something. Nobody can read your mind. Absolutely.
Right. Yep. We're all, yeah.
Buddock for $5 says, in a perfect world, no one would ever speak at all, and then no one would ever be offended. Best $5 anybody ever spent.
What the fuck? X-Nerd Prime's starting to, I think, try to pick a fight with me. I don't know.
Well, so mods, I'm not reading all of chat right now. Again, attack an argument is fine. Don't attack a panelist, host, or somebody in chat as well. Mods, please read through that. Determine, don't, you know how I am. I don't like to ban or block anybody, but if it's derailing anything, please take a look at that. And I know there are a couple mods in chat.
Yeah,
right
I don't
now.
know. I don't know. I'm not sure he's doing it or not. It's just
Okay.
weird. Like he's
Okay.
accusing me of white knighting. Like when the fuck did I white knight anybody in this conversation about the women?
This is actually a comment I use all the time. Offense is taken, not given.
Yeah, I agree.
Stealing things is theft. Don't be a thief. Nerd. Now, to be fair, being obnoxious kind of breaks that rule, but generally speaking, just don't be offended by
You can't
crap.
be pushing someone's buttons
Yeah, exactly.
or their declared boundaries, if they've politely expressed what Bear said, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
if someone says something and you continue to antagonize them, you're now the problem.
yeah, like if you're poking someone and someone asks you to stop, and then you take that as an opening to poke them more, that's you being a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bring it up here, but I can name some situations where that's happened, and I flat out will continue to offend the person, but that's not for here, and it's very minor issues, we'll just say. But some people can get offended over the dumbest stuff.
Oh God, yes.
Right.
So,
Well,
That
that
would
would be a
color.
kind of passive aggressive problem too, but that's just, again, it's not really about gaming.
yeah, that's true. Well, being Minnesota, everything's passive aggressive, so I can see it. Well, get on the screen. Let's point a compromise. Nobody gets what they want, and everybody's miserable. That's not the exact quote, but that's very close to diplomacy, right? I can't remember exactly how the quote goes, but it's essentially something like that. Negotiation or diplomacy works when everybody had to give up something and nobody's happier. I forget what the quote is, but there is a quote out there like that. So yes.
If the quote I remember is something about it's a successful negotiation when everyone is equally unhappy.
Excellent. Law Dog for $5. Thank you very much. Don't do that. 3 guesses what I'm doing 0.25 seconds later. I have that mentality as well. That's a sad thing. What the... Mean Old Lady says, I don't know if I've seen you here before, Mean Old Lady, but you already scare me because you're a mean old lady. But thank you very much for the comment. No gods, no governments, no kinks, no swearing. You know what? I think you just did session 0 for a 4-hour one shot right there in very succinct sentence. What do you guys think? No gods, no governments, no kinks, no swearing.
I mean, real world stuff. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah.
In the universe stuff, you might have to.
Okay. Mahawk, no, yes, we understand that. That's exact. Yeah. I mean, I swear a lot. I mean, no God, sorry, you can't be a cleric. I mean, we.
Yeah, I think the no governance is more like no politics, right? So.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. No kinks. Oh, I'm not at that table. No kidding. And finally, I think this is another one for Bear. But if this is what started the problem, we'll just move on.
Yeah, that's the one that started the problem.
Oh, is it? Okay. Then we can move on.
So it's the civil-tempered little old lady that you defend above and beyond all the uncouth surly guys that bear the Gen X GM. She gets to hijack the other style. You can say White Knight. Well, fuck you. How about that as an answer? How about just fuck you? Because that's
moving
bullshit.
on.
You know it. We literally said what we were talking about was that person was the person that we wanted to engage because they were the person being made uncomfortable by other people. That's not white knighting. That's called social fucking manners. Learn them. I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back.
I need the more you know thing. All right. This is the longest freaking show I've had so far, and we have one more segment to do. So we're going to cruise into this segment now, unless you guys have any final comments about boundaries. By the way, great discussion. Thank you for engaging with the scenario. I know probably 3 out of 3 of you wanted to say, well, you actually kind of did. I'm out. Done. I know that's the easy answer. I knew that's what I was going to get.
It was a worthwhile discussion, though. Yeah.
Yes. So I really do appreciate that, guys. Let me get my little banner thingy up here. All right, folks. I know these videos are kind of long this time around, but I love this discussion that we're having. You can just go to Reddit and look at RPG horror stories. Personally, I think half of them are made up, if not more, but they're still good food for thought, and that's kind of what we're doing here. But you know what? We've talked about how horrible people are. We've talked about the spotlight hog. We talked about the naysayer and the negative person. Now we talk about people who just break boundaries. But is there a path to redemption? Can people be redeemed, or is it one and done? Well, we're going to find out in the next video.